As the anticipation for the upcoming Aether Model releases is growing, we still have a few from the previous batches that we haven't taken a look at just yet. This Finnair A330 being one of them, in fact the last of the regular releases, and then we have a limited edition which I will also very soon take a look at here on the channel. But yeah, as I say, this time around we are focusing on this A330 with the Finnair livery to see how Aether Model has done with this aircraft model. This video is brought to you by TradeWings, your shop for all 3D printed, scale model related products from GC hangars to entire terminals. If you are looking for great value 3D printed accessories for your model airport, TradeWings has got you covered. And don't forget to use the code BONGO10 for 10% discount on all 3D printed products on their website. Check them out through the link in the video description down below. With that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we, as mentioned, will take a closer look at an Airbus A330-300 of Finnair. And what I really love about the Aether Model box design, apart from having the rendition here at the front and the Finnair branding, is the fact that it doesn't matter from which side you are looking at the box, you will always be able to identify what model you have inside. That is super practical. What I also like about the box design philosophy, let's call it like that, from Aether Model is the fact that you can open it up. This lid reveals a lovely image of the aircraft in real life. We also have a bit more information about the aircraft. And then we of course also have a cutout, so you get the best of both worlds. On the back side of the box we find even more information about the aircraft in form of the specifications. We of course also have the model identifier code, so from which batch it is and which model inside the batch it is. And we also have this little piece of information here referring to a base plate. And said base plate can be found inside the box. It is just a little piece of cardboard with a, however, very lovely print, in this case of an apron position from the Helsinki airport, the home airport of Finnair. A lovely little touch, of course, strictly speaking, not necessary, but it just adds to the overall experience when unpacking your model for the first time, and it's also a very nice way to display your aircraft model. And here she is, the Airbus A330-300 in the standard livery of Finnair. Now, Finnair is actually a surprisingly well-featured airline in Scale 500, however, not really in recent years. There it has become increasingly scarce. What is also quite interesting is the fact that Finnair has been covered quite extensively, not just from Harper, but also from other manufacturers like, for example, Sky 500, who, for example, in 2013 and 2015 also released A330s, however, with Marimekko special liveries. This is the first time we get an A330 of Finnair in just the standard livery, and I'm very happy about it. But how has Aether Model done with it? That's what we want to find out, so let's take a look at it. And what better place to start than the vertical stabilizer here at the tail of the aircraft, where we have the Finnair branding. On the fuselage, we then find the Finnish flag, the full registration code of the aircraft, and the flag of the European Union. Furthermore, we also have the aircraft type specification and a lovely amount of detailing in and around the cabin door. So that's really quite nice. We also get some printed details at the very tail, both here underneath and, well, no, not at the very tail with the APU exhaust. Normally with Aether Model and also with this aircraft model you would get it, but in this specific case they forgot. At the front of the aircraft and across the fuselage we then find the Finnair branding. They didn't forget that, so that's great. And we have a lovely amount of detailing also here. We have the static ports, we have small hatches, sensors, markings, and again some lovely amount of detailing in and around the cabin doors. If we move to the cockpit section itself, we get the cockpit windows with the window wipers. Above that, the last two letters of the registration code. We also get details like, for example, petrotubes. That's something I really love. And we also have this lovely circular marking around the radome. So far, so good. But what about the engine nacelles? They have, of course, been kept in all white, just as most of the fuselage. So no big surprise here. But we do have a lovely amount of printed details. For example, the silver leading edge, the safety markings here on the side. Also notice the lovely print here on the pylon connecting the nacelle with the wings. Or, for example, here underneath the nacelles, also here a lovely amount of detailing. The physical detailing itself, I think, is also very nice, especially here from the front with the engine fan blades. And then we can take a look at the wings, starting off with the top side, where we have the different flap slats and spoilers carved out very nicely. We have some different shades of grey for additional detailing. We have the markings as to where to walk on the wings, both in form of a line and in form of writing. We also find nice physical detailing here on the underside of the wings, and also the full registration code of the aircraft once again. The A330, of course, also has winglets, which I think has been executed fairly nicely. Here we also find the Finnair branding. And then a nice detail as well is the fact that we have the landing lights printed on. Now, the landing gear, that is the standard landing gear that Aether uses for the A330s, all of course inherited from Sky 500, but I don't have much to complain about. I think overall it looks fine. The front landing gear, as people rightly point out, is slightly too tall, but I think the bigger sin here is that the hatches on the side are way too big. But we do have printed details here, which I think is quite nice overall. The belly of the aircraft, well, here Aether does not opt for a hole in the fuselage, as they're also not providing any stands, so that's the right decision. Rather, they're focusing on adding printed details, which I think is much better. On top of the fuselage, we also find some printed details. Here, Aether Model is showing their set domes as printed details because they can't guarantee that physical set domes would be placed, sized, or colored correctly. So I think, again, a good compromise. And then last but certainly not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartment. Again, a place where Aether is shining with a lot of detailing, both here at the back as well as here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A330-300 in the standard livery of Finnair from Aether Model in scale 1 to 500, and what can we say about this aircraft model? Now obviously I'm happy that we get a standard livery Finnair from Aether Model, but what surprised me was actually when I was looking this model up for, well, researching for this review, at least according to the MAD-B database, this is the first time we get an A330-300 in the standard livery of Finnair ever in scale 500. So we had to wait until 2026 to get such a model, which is absolutely incredible. A massive oversight. I actually didn't have that on my radar, that we had just never had this featured. I thought for sure someone has made a standard livery A330, if not Herpa, then Sky 500, but no, this is the first time we have the standard livery featured. Incredible. In terms of the execution, Aether Model, of course, opting for the Sky 500 mode for the A330s, which is not a bad thing. It has some minor weaknesses, and I think the main weakness when it comes to the physical detailing is the front landing gear. I know people are saying it is a bit too tall, and yeah, technically it is a bit too tall. I don't think it really bothers me that much. It's more the hatches on the side. They are also definitely way too big. I think for me that's just the biggest sinner, but of course, overall, people are correct when pointing out that it is a bit too tall, and yeah, that's something that of course could and should be improved upon sometime in the future when they are reworking this mold. In terms of the print, well, I don't have much to complain about. Of course, with the recent batches, we know that especially the A330s sometimes felt a little bit rushed from Aether Model. I don't think this model suffers quite as much from it. For example, one place where the A330s definitely showed that kind of being rushed was with the front cargo hatch, which had a strange bend upwards with, for example, the Lufthansa A330 from Aether Model, and I don't really see that nearly as much on this model. However, they forgot on this very specific model the APU exhaust. You can get this Finnair with the APU exhaust, but on this specific model they forgot it, and I'm always fascinated about the fact that these model factories are able to skip entire production steps, because I mean, applying this print is a production step and they just very clearly skipped it, and how that is even possible is fascinating. It's a bit frustrating that it is possible. Is it the biggest sin I've ever seen on a model? No, but it's also clearly not good. Things like that should not happen. An entire production step should not be able to be skipped, which has happened in this very specific case. But apart from that, I think we have a really lovely print overall. We don't have smudges, we have clean edges, we definitely don't have print lines, and we have a lovely amount of printed details over on this aircraft model. That is a joy to look at. And it is, of course, another Aether model that is filling a crucial gap, even though I at least had kind of well, forgotten or ignored that it even existed. Now, towards the end of the video, I would love to hear your opinion about this aircraft model, and also about the fact that model manufacturers are able to skip entire production steps. In case of missing a production step, I think I got lucky with only missing the APU exhaust because it's not the most noticeable thing, but we have seen far worse blunders also from Aether Model. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. Let's keep the conversation going down there. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you enjoyed this type of content, please feel free to leave a like. If you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? And with that, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.